All right. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for taking time out of your day to join us it's afternoon right now in Eastern time zone. My name is Chris Isbell with Martin and Associates, and today we're going to be talking about what's new in Acumatica 2024 R1. So just a reminder, Acumatica has two big releases per year, usually around April and October. And so 2024 R1 was released in April. So we're going to be talking about that and some of the new features in there. Um, and before I hand it over to Tom for our demo and show and tell today, just a couple housekeeping items. We are recording this, and you should get a link to this in the next few days. And if you have any questions while the new features are being shown, just go ahead and use the chat or the Q&A feature. I'll be monitoring that throughout the presentation, and we'll make sure those questions get answered. And just depend upon how the questions are, we'll ask them during the show or at the end of the demo where they make sense. So to get started, I'm going to hand it over to Tom Ferris for Martin and Associates, and he's going to run this demo. So take it away, Tom.
Excellent. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it. And thanks everybody for joining us today. Very short slide deck introduction. Today's agenda, we will visit both the Acumatica demo instance as well as the help notes. So a quick reminder that even if you don't have access to a 2024 R1 sandbox right now, for example, that's something that obviously Martin Associates, we can help you with if you're interested in actually seeing and playing and touching the actual software features that we're going to review today. But you can also go to help.acumatica.com and release notes, and you'll actually see me visit that page quite a bit today. You could follow along and build upon that which we're going to review today. We're basically picking some highlights across 6 general functions: general business, distribution, manufacturing. There's one enhancement under the project accounting / construction feature set, a couple e-commerce features, and then if time permits, it kind of depends on the questions that we generate. We might actually look at some of the more technical platform enhancements at the tail end of today's session. All right. For those, most attendees today are likely customers of Martin Associates, and we thank you for that. But a couple quick images for those who might view this recording who are not customers of ours. A little background on us. I'll just go through these images really quick. Folks can pause on the recording if they want to dive into that or ask questions. We give Acumatica one plug of some updated industry reviews, and we're into the demo. Okay. Super. And as Chris mentioned, don't hesitate to ask questions as we go. We can dive into some of the topics that we've got set up to review today. Again, I'll be visiting help.acumatica.com. If I start there afresh per the notes, if you just type in release notes, you'll be brought to this tab that we're going to be going through a selection of highlights that Acumatica added between 2023 R2, which came out in October of 2023, and the current version we're looking at, Acumatica 2024 R1, which came out in April. All right, so there's your follow along option at help.acumatica.com. All right, let's hop into our product and take a look at a number of general business functions that could be applicable to everybody using Acumatica now or in the future. We're going to start with Acumatica payments, and I'll bring us to an example invoice record, a sales order. I'll give a little background here as we go. I'm looking for 13430. Okay. So if you have the distribution suite and you are used to um, processing customer orders and shipping goods to your customer, this will look very familiar. Um, the idea here is to take goods that have been shipped and the actual AR receivable and provide some enhancements for payment options for our customers through a new integrated product. It actually came out last fall, but they've made some nice improvements with 2024 R1. It's called Acumatica Payments. It's technically capable of displacing a number of merchant providers out there on the marketplace. An example of the kind of integration and kind of seamlessness is we can enable invoices outbound with both a QR code image. So if I have my mobile phone, I can actually take a picture of this. Or if your customer is receiving this PDF from you via email, they can click on the Pay Now link, and that takes us straight to the Acumatica Payments payment portal. If the customer had multiple invoices, they would each appear as a cute little rectangle here, and they could elect to pay for them. You can see basically over here the cumulative amount of invoices that have been selected by the customer adding up. The payment portal allows them to add a new credit card or apply an existing credit card that you already have tokenized in Acumatica. They could be also entering brand new ACH credentials right from here. So rather than having the customer have to relay that over the phone or in an email, less security things, you could actually choose to not even have tokens for credit cards in Acumatica and instead let the merchant portal, aka Acumatica Payments, actually house that credit card data for either one time or multiple use. You can enable other features like partial pay. Right now, this is set to full pay in this demo instance, but you can allow partial pay. Customers can get a quick view of their details. And this Acumatica Payments can be combined with the Acumatica Customer Self-Service Portal for statements and individual invoice payments. All right. Backing up a little bit here, our document that we generated this from in an invoice, if we dive into Acumatica Payments options a little bit more, even at the customer class level, let alone a given customer, we can decide if a customer's payment profile is or is not saved to Acumatica as tokenized, and how are these payment links? So if we wanted to simply email the PDF or the PDF plus a payment link invitation, what's the delivery mechanism? And are we allowing this customer or an entire class of customers to pay via ACH and credit card, just credit card, or just ACH/EFT? Right. There's a number of other benefits to Acumatica Payments. There's entire demos provided by the publisher, so I won't go into any more detail, but please don't hesitate to ask questions about Acumatica Payments and how it might be beneficial for you and your customers. All right, next up, an additional kind of payment processing enhancement. Oops, drop my database, sorry about that. Close the wrong tab. We want to look at the processing center. All right, so a couple improvements to the processing center's record. Let's visit this. So up next is Acumatica's support of point of sale terminals on your processing center records. And this will be applicable for Acumatica Payments, but also for other processing centers. So if you're using authorized.net or our friends at eBizCharge, this will also be applicable. we enable point of sale terminals, and we're able to actually start importing and recording terminal IDs. So this used to be kind of a workaround, require other third parties for point of sale integration, and now that's been included. All right, we'll end that. Up next, a very quick visit to system management and enable disable features. So a lot like help.acumatica.com and our release notes, visiting your existing instance without your license changing on upgrade, it's worth taking a quick peek at enable disable features in your instance if you're an administrator of your Acumatica instance, because they're always adding stuff to this. So I'm gonna go looking for it. Let my browser help me find Canada. Canadian payroll, no, that's not what I'm looking for. Canadian localization. So if I'm bringing this up because if you turn on Canadian localization, Acumatica has finally added Canadian EFT plugin. The Canadian banking system is a little different than US banking system. And if we turn on that feature, the result is that under payment method, right? Under our payment methods records, so let's pick on ACH. Under accounts payable, Acumatica will enable an additional export method, not just US, but Canadian EFT. Right, so we've got all the instructions now in Acumatica to provide the Canadian banking system with an ACH dispersal instruction set. All right. Chris, any questions so far before I move on?
Not yet. We are doing good. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right. I'll pop back into enable disable features to highlight an additional kind of general business. This is basically regarding TaxCal. So our friends at Avalara have been working with Acumatica closely to bring the integration between Acumatica ERP and their AvaTax and exemption certificate management much tighter. I'll explain a few details here, but exemption certificate management under external tax calculation integration basically means this. So let's go visit a customer record example here. Click on our friends at USA Bartending and our shipping tab. So if you don't have Avalara, you can record the customer's tax exemption certificate ID and just manage that in SharePoint or in your internal hard drive or right here at Acumatica on the customer record and record an exemption number and why they're exempt, government, etc., nonprofit. And then Avalara offers a dynamic ECM exemption certificate management platform that it's very comprehensive about soliciting your customers to keep their exemption certs active and valid. And then when Acumatica sales orders or AR invoices are calculated, it will reference those exemption certificates upstream in Avalara. But to get that to happen, in the past, we've had to export customer records and customer location records out of Acumatica and import them into Avalara. And it's not terribly fun to initiate, and it's not terribly fun to maintain as new customers are added. And that is over. So with this new link, exemption certificates will actually become, that are over in Avalara, will become visible, and their status can actually be queried right here in Acumatica, and no more exporting out of Acumatica and importing customer records upstream into AvaTax and exemption certificate management. So very nice enhancement for both initiating and maintenance of ECM. Cool. All right. Our last general business topic is some really nice enhancements to approval management. So let's go into an example purchase order. And if we go querying for a purchase order that's in the status of pending approval. I like that little budget thing. That's new too. But, all right. So the status of this PO, it's not live yet. Theoretically, hasn't been sent to the vendor yet because it's pending approval. And a quick reminder that we know which map we're engaging. Two-step, in this case, a two-step approval map for PO and who's this assigned to. And a few releases ago, the ability to actually designate an alternative approver, aka reassign, was added. And with this instance, we have reason codes. This is a text field. If I go here and hit reject, I'm given a popped up dialog box, free form text that I get to record why I'm rejecting it. And the person who initially was putting this PO together, Max, we'll see it was assigned to Layla. It was rejected by Tom, and Tom will have stated a reason for why it was rejected, and they can get to work and resolve that objection. All right, so reason code capture, really a reason notepad is what it is. It's a reason notepad pop up on rejection for approval maps. This will be applicable across all sorts of document types. Next is multiple approver options right in the actual map. So let's go look at an approval map to get a feel for that. And if you've ever had to configure or maintain or update approval maps, you'll appreciate the flexibility they've added here. All right, so our pro forma, this will be like a project pro forma. Under the rules action, now this dialog box for the approver used to indicate a particular employee, and Acumatica has now added a grid, allowing for multiple employees to be denoted as potential approvers. So it's really now either sales manager. This is different than multi-step. This is basically for a given step within the approval map, one or more persons could be the approver. And it's kind of preordained right in here in the actual rule. This is independent of employees being out of the office and having a temporary delegate. Like, well, Chris is on vacation, I'm temporarily approving on behalf of him, and then that exhausts itself. That's actually on the employee record. This is multi-approval configuration right in the map. All right. Those are that's our quick run through of some of the enhancements associated with general business. We are now on to some distribution features. All right, so I'm going to demonstrate this. So if you're in manufacturing, you're used to MRP, aka inventory planning. So MRP has been renamed inventory planning display, and it's generate, process, regenerate, process, the use of forecast. And this actually came out in 2023 R2. The acronym is DRP, Distribution Requirements Planning. And that's primarily because you don't have to be a manufacturer to need to plan out your supply chain of purchasing, warehouse to warehouse transfers of items. So if you're not in manufacturing, they would all be quote finished goods that need to be transferred from one warehouse to another. This is a quick preview of kind of a manufacturing / distribution topic that kit assembly is now being honored in what used to be called MRP, aka inventory planning display. So In other words, if you're a manufacturer, you're very used to this inventory planning display form. If you're in distribution, you would see everything on this screen except for this manufacturer button, allowing you to plan out purchase orders and warehouse to warehouse transfers based on a variety of demand reasons. Those demand reasons can um, take the form of safety stock, reorder points, sales orders themselves, of course. So basically, a good number of these topics, sales orders, shipments, purchase orders, um, can actually have forecasts for items, skipping production orders and production material. Stock adjustments, safety stock. These are all things that certainly manufacturers would use, but you don't have to be a manufacturer to find value in reorder point management, recognizing transfer demand in a timely manner. So that's distribution requirements planning. Another place that you'll see evidence of this, of DRP, becoming available is on the stock item master itself. I know that some of the customers that might be on this call have already begun to explore these feature sets, but popping in the sales demo here, we'll look at an example quote finished good, and how we actually choose to plan out replenishment. There's a couple options. We don't, or we use MRP/DRP, or we use the inventory modules replenishment features for create purchase orders, create transfer orders. So customers that both manufacturing and distribution needs have a number of options with DRP being added. Okay, if we set this to MRP, then our inventory planning will be very MRP centric. In this case, manufacturing lead times and such. And if we toggle this to inventory replenishment, then this will look more like our kind of standard inventory replenishment before DRP. So customers have options. They can actually mix and match across their SKUs, how they choose to leverage or not leverage DRP or MRP for inventory replenishment. Okay, cool. For timing this, I'll just bring up one quick example of our help guide, rather than actually reviewing the features themselves. Under really another distribution topic, Acumatica has made some improvements for searching for the invoices associated with a return order. So I won't spend time going into that one as a demonstration element, but if your service teams are challenged with RMAs and finding the applicable invoice, Acumatica has made some nice improvements in the usability of searching for the original order that's being returned and how they were charged and how they should be credited, for example. All right, cool. Next, let's go and look at, we are switching gears out of distribution to a couple of different manufacturing enhancements for 2024 R1. Here we go. Let's see. Okay, it's got an awkward name, but I will provide us a visual explanation for this. There we go. All right, so here's our awkward name: automatic backward reporting. So what does that really mean? Acumatica has basically engineered some flexibility into the manufacturing workflow across multiple operations. So let's go pick on a bill of materials. I'll pick on one that I know fairly well. Where is our Keurig coffee maker? There it is. Okay. Nope. Wrong hyperlink. Sorry. Bill of material. Okay. What's really at issue here is the control point. Um, from a given work center, we can state whether or not this work center and the operations that employ it are or are not a control point. And the control point means we must, like, this would be the most conservative setting prior to the Acumatica 2024 R1. It basically says no one is putting any time against the inspection operation. No one's issuing any material and no one's completing the actual finished good until, per the control point, the assembly operation is done. It's very linear. So this is serial. Another way to think about this is serial is the way things were arranged in Acumatica prior to 2024 R1. Now we can have a mix of serial and parallel processing. So basically, our awkwardly named automatic backward reporting assumed that if you did something like this and said, I'm going to make assembly not a control point, but the final operation must be a control point. If I put in a time card or a labor entry or a move entry for the inspection process, I could theoretically backflush the completion of any prior operations. And that's not always a desirable feature set. So basically, Acumatica has been designed around automatic backward reporting, and now this is an option. Just because I complete a subsequent operation does not mean by default that all of the prior operations have been completed. Maybe there'll be inspection of some of the units, and there's still more assembly going on tomorrow, and folks should not have this prior operation closed out just because there's been completion of a subsequent operation. All right, a couple of different ways to look at it. The bottom line is things used to be very linear and serial in nature as far as the operational workflows, and Acumatica introduces optional parallel processing across operations with automatic backward reporting. You can read all about it. Feel free to ask us at the Martin Associates team if you would like to dive deeper. I already prefaced the kind of next manufacturing topic, but I'll bring it back up as a visual on inventory planning. Inventory planning display, kit assembly is now being honored. So if you're not familiar with kits down in the inventory module and a kit spec and kit assembly, then this won't really mean much, but it is really nice to have a kit, aka a mini bill of material, potentially including standard labor backflushing options being included in inventory planning display for both the materials consumed and the production of the actual resulting finished good or completed kit. All right, so now it's all included in inventory planning display. Last one for manufacturing topics, specification of the planning horizon. All right, it sounds like a good science fiction novel. But what this really means is a new feature set on what used to be called MRP preferences, inventory planning preferences, a planning horizon. So no changes to exception management, a forecasts time fence, grace period about when bells and whistles should go off about things arriving too late or too early and being replanned. Planning horizon says, how far out should I care? I could have a forecast record that I build out a forecast library for the next 3 years. But every time I refresh MRP, I don't care about what's going on 3 years from now. I put in the forecast because it's valid. And I might update it between now and 3 years from now. But I certainly do not need inventory planning to honor those forecast records or a sales order, like a blanket sales order that I have that spans the next 2 years. I do not need to plan out that far. So we can basically enhance the speed with which MRP runs and have it only operate from now up to or out into the future to a certain planning horizon. And it just speeds things up. It reduces clutter in inventory planning, and it speeds up processing significantly if you have a bunch of data for it to react to. It's way far out that no human cares about right now. All right, so planning horizon. Seems like kind of like a duh thing, but it's nice to have it there. All right. I will do a very quick visit to a project accounting feature. And while I'm transitioning, Chris, any questions, or should I keep rolling?
Keep rolling, sir.
Thank you. All right. So one um, project accounting / construction feature that caught our attention is a more direct link between cost transactions and the actual AP documents associated with a project. So this is very much project accounting or construction related. But if you're familiar with project accounting, to kind of give us a quick visual, Acumatica uses this project transactions intermediate record to interpret what's happening on a given project. And so to kind of give us a visual there, let's just pull up a project record and talk about this enhancement. And again, we can go into more detail, maybe a detailed review of this feature if you are interested. But this visibility settings grid down here in the lower right of my screen basically reminds us that this project has been told it's allowed to monitor journal entries, AP activity, AR activity, sales orders, purchase orders, inventory transactions coming and going associated with this project and its tasks. And in prior versions, sometimes it's been a hard bridge between the AP transaction and the project, because there's an intermediate called a project transaction, where the project transaction is created by the project module in reaction to transactions that took place in accounts payable, for example. And sometimes that bridge has been hard to actually make the connection. Like, why is my project incurring these costs? And can I see the actual origin of them? Sometimes you had to bridge through the project transaction record intermediary, and they made an improvement to that. Certainly on pro forma invoices. All right. Again, reach out if there's more interest in diving into some of the project accounting enhancements. Moving on. And I don't have my commerce connector up there. Sorry, I'm looking for my commerce workspace. Just a moment. Wow, I forgot to turn on this instance. All right, good. Well, there it is. Gives me a chance to kind of highlight some of the goodies. What is new in retail commerce feature set is the long-awaited Amazon connector. So I'll pull this up here very briefly. So in our commerce workspace, sorry about that. Not sure how I missed that in this instance. Here we are, commerce. Hello. All right. So much like big commerce stores or Shopify stores, now we can actually configure Amazon stores. So I'll pick on Shopify here for a quick intro. All right. So if I was configuring a new Shopify store, we get all these bi-directional synchronizations between Acumatica and my e-commerce platform, Shopify, BigCommerce, Amazon. There's new flexibility actually added for Shopify, for example, for bi-directional. Not every customer wants to make Acumatica stock item master the master. There are times when there's so much investment upstream in BigCommerce, Shopify, some of the predecessor ones, Magento, etc., and Amazon, that we actually want Acumatica to learn about the product master from the e-commerce platform. Initial versions of these commerce integrations always assumed Acumatica was the stock item master, and that the e-commerce platform would find out about stock items, non-stock items, templated items, product images, availability from the ERP. And there's some options that have been introduced to allow that to flow the other direction.
That's cool.
So,
Tom,
yes, sir.
are you saying that if you had an existing Shopify store and you were new to Acumatica,
You could run
you could
stock item sync.
download your stock items from the store into
Theoretically,
Acumatica?
this only came out in April. I haven't tested it. So before Martin Associates says like, oh yeah, we'll just build a stock item master like magic for you. Let's test it in a sandbox.
Okay,
But that's what they're purporting. Yes, thank you for clarifying, Chris. Yep.
awesome.
Yeah,
Thank you.
kind of cool. Um, and all right, so the segue here that I was intending is to pop into brand new gadget Amazon stores. Right, there were a number of plugins and add-ins and GitHub. Um, this has been in the oven for quite a while, the Amazon stores, but now we got it. Actually, right in the UI. So shipments and their orders and payments against them. Um, Marketplace fulfilled orders. We could spend 3 hours talking about just the sync directions. But very nice enhancement that alongside BigCommerce and Shopify, we got an Amazon store connector built right in. Okay, cool. I'm totally happy to let folks have some time back, but there are some great practical platform enhancements that I'd like to review. If you are not into generic inquiries, or you don't give a lick about the migration to the .NET Core, thank you very much for joining Chris and I at Martin Associates. You're welcome to drop because that's the end of like the kind of front end functional review. We got a couple of technical things to run through quickly here, and then that'll be the conclusion.
Yeah,
Chris,
awesome.
yeah,
Yeah, if you guys do decide to drop, that's perfectly legit. Thank you for joining us, like Tom said. Look for the recording, and then if there's, what Tom has shown today is not every single new feature because that would take way too long. He's shown a lot of the great new ones, but definitely, you can hit the release notes, either like Tom said on the help site, or we generally have them linked from our Acumatica page on our website as well. So if there's any questions, that you want to see more information or just kind of learn about something, just let us know and we'll be happy to talk about all that fun stuff with you guys.
super. Thanks for the clarification, Chris. All right, so I'll spend a few minutes on a couple very practical platform enhancements. I won't cover all of them, but I think if you are sticking with us, we'll still have you out early because we'll get to these fairly quickly. First up is changes to the management of access rights. Okay, so what does that really mean? I'm going to go and visit user security and pick on a user role. What's a good example user role? How about the AP clerk? Okay, gotcha. That's probably a good example. So access rights by role for the AP clerk out of the box user role. Right. So if we dive into, say, well, it's accounts payable. So let's visit the payables workspace and maybe the um, bills and adjustments, putting in a brand new bill. Gotcha. If you have worked in modifying user roles, that's the only reason why this component of our demo today would make sense. There's something missing from this list. It's a value called not set. In the past, before 2024 R1, Acumatica stated that if you don't permission an object, like the bills and adjustments form in accounts payable, explicitly to at least one user role in the system, then everybody gets access to that. And that was a status or access rights called not set. Like if you haven't set it for at least one person, then you've set it for basically nobody, and everybody gets to see it. And they've gotten rid of that. By default, if you haven't permissioned something to somebody, then the default is no longer not set, it is revoked. You can't see it. You have to explicitly grant access to an object to at least one user role, and the user role is applied to one or more persons, in order for them to see it. Whereas in the past, someone would come with a new report, a new generic inquiry, or a new custom form, and by default, everybody got to see it. Now, by default, no one gets to see it until you go choose a user role that should see it, whatever that it is, a report, a form, or a process screen. Right. So battling not set has always been the thing. And if you've been in the trenches putting together security roles, that's a pretty significant one. All right. Next up, this one's also really fun if you are busy building reports. I think the title says it all. You can use generic inquiries as a data source for a subsequent generic inquiry. Go find the data you want, and build an inquiry for it, and then build a subsequent inquiry downstream from it and reference the results of that prior inquiry. Lots of platforms have had this for a long time. Some of us in the Acumatica diaspora have been asking for this for about 10 years. So it's nice to see that they finally delivered it. Okay.
Agreed.
Thanks, Chris. Next up, the ongoing migration to .NET Core. There are a few more features associated with .NET Core and OData included. So Open API 2.0, there's a number of technical edits. If you're building APIs, if you're building product extensions, customizations, if you have developers on staff, this has been something that's been monitored for the last 2 or 3 years, and this is just the latest chapter in that progression. Okay. Last up that I had highlighted, Chris might have some that he wants to cover. Last thing I had was the mobile platform being extended, allowing the display of thumbnail images. So when we're consuming a list of transactions, purchase orders, sales orders, quotes, expense receipts, now rather than having to click into the record, and I didn't have this set up in the demo instance, apologies. Rather than have to click into the record and visit, quote, the files menu in the mobile app, the actual list can display a thumbnail image. Okay, that was the end of my content. Chris, any questions, or would you have us cover anything else before we conclude?
The only question is if people have anything about like, hey, how to upgrade. I think everybody here on this system probably knows that, but just briefly, if you want to cover that.
Sure. Yeah. How to upgrade. Um, for starters, if you are a SaaS customer, software as a service, aka cloud deployment instance of Acumatica, then your active subscription entitles you to 2 free 90-day sandboxes every year. Each time a new version comes out, 2024 R1, 2024 R2, in April and October, respectively, you are entitled to a free 90-day sandbox to conduct regression testing. Take a photocopy of your production system, have a new URL with, it'll basically have a sandbox dash suffix added into the URL, and you can log into basically a copy of your data that's upgraded and confirm that reports and business processes and users can become used to that before upgrading. Once regression testing in a sandbox is conducted by usually a combination between Martin Associates, especially if you have customization packages or third-party extensions that need to be upgraded, then we get the green light, ideally within that 90-day, and some customers only need a week or so of regression testing. They don't need a 90-day window to say, we're ready. Upgrading typically takes place overnight. We would regularly schedule that kind of stuff for like a weekday. Hey, on Tuesday night, starting at 6 p.m. Eastern, Acumatica, please upgrade this instance. The next morning, everybody walks in and Acumatica looks like what the sandbox did during our regression testing window. What would you add to that kind of rundown on upgrade, Chris?
Nothing really. That works out pretty good. Just remember, anytime you want to think about upgrading, um, just let us know and we can spin up one of those sandboxes for you, and you guys can let loose in there and test it out, make sure it works, especially for customizations, third parties, that kind of stuff.
Yep, absolutely. Okay. Well, if there weren't any other questions, then I would like to say thank you for spending some time with Chris and I. Um, let's see if I can get my, there we go.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody, for attending. Thanks for taking time out of your day. And again, any questions, let us know. Otherwise, have a great rest of the week.